All right, parents, let's talk tongue ties and lip ties for a few minutes. But I want to center this conversation somewhere different than most people do. Not on the tie, not on the tissue, but on the tension and the dysfunction underneath it. The deeper nervous system piece that's often driving what you're seeing. Because if tongue and lip ties were only a tissue problem, then why do so many babies still struggle after the release? And why do we see teenagers, adults, and grade schoolers who don't have any visible ties, but they still have airway issues, sensory challenges, jaw pain, poor posture, and chronic tension? So here's the truth: ties are rarely the foundational root issue, tension is. And here's another truth nobody really says out loud: when you have a baby with a tongue tie who also had reflux, colic, constipation, sensory struggles, and can't sleep lying flat, the tie isn't the whole story. It's often a sign that your baby's nervous system is stuck in stress mode, what we call nervous system dysregulation. That's a deeper layer than the tongue and the lip ties themselves. Now, pause here with me for a second because a lot of parents and practitioners in the Thai world already understand this part. Yes, the Thai can stress the body. Yes, it can stress the nervous system. Yes, it can contribute to feeding struggles, airway challenges, sensory issues, and lead to nervous system dysregulation and sympathetic dominance. But what if it's not just the Thai that causes stress? What if it's a loop? What if that stress pattern is both the beginning of the problem and the thing that keeps showing up later for your toddler, your 3 year old, your 5 year old, or even your teenager? Depending upon where you look and who you talk to, research says around 10% of babies will have a tongue or lip tie. Some say less, some say more. But here's the question: what about the babies who have digestive issues, sleep challenges, and can't calm down? That's way more than 10%. And it's not four separate problems, it's one nervous system showing up in four different ways. So, yes, a revision can address the tissue. But if the nervous system tension is still there, the body can recreate restriction. And that perfect storm of neurological dysfunction downstream can still keep carrying forward. That's not always surgical failure. Sometimes that's your baby's body trying to protect something deeper, a deeper level of dysfunction and dysregulation. So this video is for the parent who feels like I've done literally everything right. You did the tongue tie, you did the lip tie, the oral, the buccal releases, you did the exercises, you did the therapies, and feeding and sleep are still hard. Or maybe you're watching this with a toddler, a young child, or an older child who had ties revised years ago, but they're still struggling with sensory challenges, speech delays, motor tone, coordination, overall development, or just something with their nervous system that still doesn't feel settled. Okay. Here's the first thing we really want to dig into. And you probably already feel this from what I've been saying. Tongue ties are most often a symptom, not the true root cause. When we look deeper into the function of the central and autonomic nervous system in kids with tongue and lip ties, and we've done this thousands of times with the PX Docs network, who we are a part of, and thousands of times in our office as well, we constantly find the same thing. Their autonomic nervous system is shifted into sympathetic dominance. Think of it like a car. Sympathetic is the gas pedal, revving the engine, tightening everything, running fast, staying on. And that's not where a baby is designed to live. Babies and young kids are meant to sleep a lot, relax a lot, and live more in parasympathetic, that rest, digest, regulate state. So, at a deeper level, the tissue that feels tight and restricted is often just doing what the nervous system is telling it to do. There's a baseline tone, like a thermostat. And when we can actually measure that tone through technology, and it helps us see if the nervous system is living in that sympathetic state, And if the nervous system is shifted into sympathetic dominance, then everything in the body can reflect that, especially the tissues of the tongue, lips, jaw, airway, and even digestion. That's why ties so often show up with colic, constipation, reflux, eczema, because tension from the nervous system can lock things up and decrease motility in the gut too. And it's also why so many kids struggle to relax, soothe, and regulate because their nervous system, it affects their behavior, their emotions, their sensory processing. We could talk about that for a long time, but let's bring it back to the connection between the nervous system and the soft tissues. The tissue of the body is one interconnected web from the top of the head all the way down to the toes. And the tone of that tissue is deeply dependent on the tone or the lack of tone in the nervous system. So, if we understand that tension on the nervous system can come first, and that tension can trigger what we see with tongue and lip tie restriction, well, where does that tension come from? This is what we call the perfect storm. When we scan these kiddos, we often find the nervous system was stressed. It's stuck in sympathetic mode first. And when we look from where that stress came from, we go into their case history. And what we see again and again, not every single time, but the vast majority, is that there was a significant amount of stress during the fertility or pregnancy period. And when mom's nervous system is carrying stress with higher cortisol and other stress hormones, that gets passed along to baby. And in that early in utero stage of nervous system development, it's sensitive, it's impressionable. So, in today's world, where so many of us are living in a go, go, go sympathetic dominant life, a lot of babies are born already shifted towards that stress state. And then on top of that, many babies are born with birth interventions, forceps, vacuum, C section, induction, epidurals. And what that can do is create a lot of physical tension on delicate tissues to the head, the cranium, the neck, the upper cervical spine, the brainstem, the jaw, and the whole neurospinal system. The alignment, motion, and regulation of that nervous system is what helps dictate how the jaw and the tissues of the tongue and lips are going to function. So, when there's significant tension from birth intervention or physical birth trauma, there can be tension downstream and upstream as well, including tongue and lip tie restriction patterns. It can impact cervical nerves, cranial nerves, and these tiny cranial nerves that come from the brainstem and upper neck and go into the jaw, the tongue, and the cheeks. The vagus nerve and the other cranial nerves need to not be irritated, not tense, not subluxated in order for those tissues to truly relax. And here's something really important we've seen. We've had tons of kiddos come in who are told, you've got to get a revision, you've got to get it clipped. And when we were able to calm and regulate the nervous system, get them out of the sympathetic dominance, and restore that communication from the nervous system to the tissue, a lot of those kiddos didn't end up needing a revision at all. And even for the ones who did, or the ones we saw after they already had a revision, they still needed support from the lingering nervous system dysfunction and dysregulation. So the other challenges could improve too: sleep, sensory, speech, motor, planning, and everything else. That's why addressing the tie with revision and exercises is so often not enough on its own. If we don't address the core tension and function of the nervous system, things don't fully change. The nervous system stays stuck in fight or flight. The muscles don't really learn to relax, and the tension just moves into other places: posture, movement, breathing, airway, sleep patterns. And that level of dysfunction can follow a child forward, sometimes for years, until that subluxation and nervous system dysfunction is found, corrected, adjusted, and cleared. So, real lasting change requires we go to the deepest level. We work with the vagus nerve. We activate the parasympathetic system. We help shift the child out of that sympathetic dominance and into rest, relaxation, regulation. Not just changing the soft tissue of the tongue, lips, and jaw, but making sure the nervous system function is where it needs to be and stays there. And this is also why the scans that help us find the root cause are so powerful because they help us measure and track progress. Because if the nervous system doesn't actually shift out of sympathetic dominance, if it doesn't begin to feel safe, relaxed, regulated, the body will retighten. Even if the tissues were revised, the body can return to those same patterns and lock in deeper over time. So, what are the positive side effects? As we like to jokingly call them, of getting a child with tongue and lip ties adjusted. Number one, you can actually address the root cause. Number two, once the nervous system becomes more regulated, connected, coordinated, everything can start to improve: sleep, digestion, mood, development, you name it. And I want to say this with a lot of humility. Sometimes the journey to get here isn't easy for our little ones, and they end up stuck in a nonstop stress and tension mode. And it can feel heartbreaking as a parent. Neurologically focused pediatric chiropractic care, it works to release and clear out the underlying nervous system tension and dysfunction so the body can shift and improve. Not just feeding, but sleep, comfort, digestion, speech, sensory processing, motor planning, and overall their ability to connect and thrive. So, if you're ready to address the foundation instead of chasing symptoms, and you're tired of feeling like you're stuck messing with the middleman, the way ties often become, comment ties below or send us a DM. We'll send you additional resources and a link to get scheduled so we can run the scans and really find out if subluxation and nervous system dysfunction is what's underlying your child's challenges, whether the ties have been revised or not. Because your little one and your whole family deserves root cause support that doesn't just chase symptoms, but gets all the way down to the foundation first. That's where true, lasting change can begin. God bless.